What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Keegan and Company podcast, where it is all about the company you keep. This episode is powered by Famous Nutrition. Shop online today and use try30 at famousnutrition.com for 30% off and feel famously good today. Enjoy the episode. Crowy, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thanks for having me on.
Hey, we've had a lot of conversations in the lead up here, but mate, we're here now. How are you feeling? You didn't run the Sydney Marathon yesterday, but you were involved in it, right?
I think I'm feeling a little better than you are this morning, but physically anyway. I mean, emotionally, I'm sure you're still on a high, but yeah, I had a lot of mates run. I didn't get out there myself, so maybe next year. I think it's cool. We were chatting about how running's going through a renaissance again. I'm just loving seeing all these run clubs pop up everywhere. People jumping in and I guess figuring out what runners have always known. It's just a great sport. You know, you hear about the runner's high. It's real.
Yeah.
That's a thing.
100%. And like, mate, you've had obviously such like an incredible career in the Ironman space. Do you have any scratches to itch or itches to scratch with the marathons?
Yes and no. I raced as a pro triathlete for 25 years. So I scratched most of the competitive itches, did all the races that I wanted to do. And I think when it's not only your passion, but also your livelihood, it's kind of healthy to step back and just jump into a lot of I still train every day. Yeah. It's part of my daily routine, always will be, always has been. Even long before I was a triathlete, I played other sports, mainly team sports. I was always active growing up, and I will be. I love the way it makes me feel. I love kicking my day off, doing something physical. But it's interesting, while you guys were running the marathon, I did have a run yesterday in the sand dunes down near Cronulla, but first of all, I just went for a walk with my wife. Yeah. So went for a walk and grabbed the coffee. So, you know, my exercise routine looks a little different to how it once did. But yeah, maybe I'll jump in. I'd love to do it with a bunch of mates, train up for it, or for a charity or for something like that. So for those 35,000 who ran yesterday, a lot of them had done marathons before. It's one of the majors now. And yourself, you know the feeling. It's an accomplishment. It's awesome to finish. It's awesome to train up for it, but it's just awesome to finish it.
Man, and it was such an awesome vibe yesterday as well. Like the whole city, it was a beautiful day. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. I remember my race plan was to just like have a cruisy race. I was telling you about my knee in the lead up. I was like, I'll have a nice little race. Like I'll walk a little bit, I'll run a little bit. And then I linked up with some mates actually, maybe around the 10-kilometer mark, and they were doing a sub 3:30, and I was just like, oh, it would be nice to run with them. And then that little ego just gets in your head, and we just had to stack in there for a little bit. So the knee is a little bit sore today, but it was cool. How do you go with like, I guess the ego now? Because I mean, you've raced and had, you know, so much great success being in the pro series. How do you go now? Does that ego still kind of get in a little bit?
I don't know if it's the ego, but it's the competitive instinct. Yeah. If I'm on a start line, yeah. I mean, I had an old swim coach who used to say, I'd be talking through tactics and he'd say, just go straight to the front and then reassess from there. Yeah. So that's my mindset when the gun goes off. And you know, it's hard to sort of unravel the wiring of 25 years as a pro athlete. And we are who we are, for better or worse. So yeah, I'm a competitor, but as I mentioned to you when we were having coffee this morning, I think it's about being self-aware and understanding who you are now. I'm not the same athlete that I once was, and I'm not the same person. Hopefully I'm a better person, having had all those experiences. And you know, a lot of my fitness these days is coaching my kids' teams and just going for a run with mates. We've got a little local run group that we hook up and run, try and on a regular basis hook up and have a little run. And a lot of those boys are training for some of the ultras, which is great. Maybe I'll jump into it, but it's so funny, you know, like when it's not only your passion, but also your job, it's just a 24/7 obsession almost, 365 days of the year. And you need a lot of help. And I was so lucky to have such a supportive family, my wife, Neri, all the people around me. Towards the end of my career, sort of the overriding thought that I kept having was that, am I being selfish still doing this? You know, I've had a good career, scratched all the itches that you talked about. It's also my livelihood now, so that factors into it. You need to, it was the way we made money for a long time, and still is for me. So that factors into your decision. But I just thought, is there a way I can do it where it's not consuming the whole family's time and attention? And so that's why I sort of made a really conscious decision just to train when I wanted to train. I don't have to be on a schedule other than I'd like to do something every day.
Yeah.
It might be one session a day. Some days I still do 3 sessions a day. I've got a mate who owns a really successful gym down near where we live. I go and do cardio with them. So yeah, my routine looks a lot different, but I'm still very consistent. And yeah, that was strategic. I just didn't want it to dominate the family schedule and the routine the way it did for such a long time.
It's funny when you've been in such a professional environment for so long, it's hard to turn off that switch, right? And I'm keen, mate. I am really excited to talk to you about your Ironman career, your transition out and what you're doing now, especially with the family. But mate, rewinding a little bit, how did you start? Like what were the first couple of experiences that got you into tri and got you into Ironman?
Well, the main sport I played growing up was soccer.
Yeah.
I played from the age of 6 until I was 20. Got to quite a high level there, youth league, played for a couple of really good teams. And I think that was my first sporting love. And it still is. I still love it. I still love the EPL. I watch the EPL.
Who's your team?
Liverpool.
Yeah, okay.
I'm a Liverpool fan.
Yeah.
So my stepdad was Scottish, huge Kenny Dalglish fan. So I mean, in the 80s, Kenny was a Liverpool legend.
Yeah.
So by default, I mean, he followed Scotland. That was his national team. And his team in Scotland was Glasgow Celtic, who I still support. But in England, he supported Liverpool because of Kenny. So I became a Liverpool supporter by default. And then, of course, Australia, we got Craig Johnson into the EPL.
Yeah.
So, and then later on, again, Harry Kewell. So I've always followed Liverpool, loved the EPL. But, even when I was playing to quite a high level, I loved endurance events. I used to see the Hawaiian Ironman on television once a year. And another event that I used to watch, and it was roughly the same time as the race in Hawaii around October, was the Coolangatta Gold.
Yeah.
So I used to love the gold and would watch that, would watch the Uncle Toby's or the Nutrigrain series. I actually got my nickname Crowy because I looked like a guy who won the Coolangatta Gold, Jonathan Crowe, the original Crowy.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's how I got the nickname.
There you go.
And so, yeah, it's those endurance events always, I guess, intrigued me. I thought, these events are long. And I, as a soccer player, and the team sports I played growing up, I used to play the speed positions.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was never a 100-meter sprinter, but when we went to athletics carnivals, I'd do okay in the 400. I used to do okay in the 800. And, I even did okay in the cross country because I think I could just persevere. Most of the kids in school would be like, I'm done with this after 200 meters.
Yeah.
And I'd still be trundling along afterwards. And I think that idea of just pushing yourself, like how far can you push yourself? Like how can you run fast? And if you can, how long can you hold it? And when it gets hard, what do you do? Do you stop? Do you keep going? So I think that's why when the Hawaiian Ironman was on television and I heard about the events that they would cover, I'm like, this is just crazy stuff. This is crazy work. Who does this? And they're still racing it. And same with the Coolangatta Gold. It was the same. I mean, of course, they had their shorter formats and more of the sort of, well, they're still aerobic events, but they were more 10-minute races, but they still had their 4-hour race as well. So yeah, I was always interested in the endurance events. And then when, my soccer career petered out, I was at university, indulging in the uni lifestyle, probably a little too heavily. And I was getting an itch again. And it was interesting because my mum said to me, I came home late from uni. I'd been at the uni bar again. And she just said, you need a tonic. You need to get fit again. You're always such a fit kid. And I hadn't done any sport for 6 months because I'd had a hernia. I was labouring for a builder. I got a hernia. Didn't do any sports for 6 months. And I was starting to get restless. And it was about that time my mum said to me, you used to always be so active. You need to find a tonic. So the next morning I just got up and went for a run because that's what I knew how to do.
Yeah.
We ran a lot with soccer training. So started running every third day, which became running every second day, running every day. Started running to the local pool, Enfield Pool, near where I lived, and swimming. I played some water polo growing up, been in a swim club as a kid. And that's really how it kicked off. And about that time, an Australian called Greg Walsh won the Ironman in Hawaii, and he was the first non-American ever to win. And it was big news in Australia. I mean, triathlon at the time, you could flick the TV on and see races. Some of the races that I ended up doing when I went to race in America, I'd seen on television back here. The Chicago Triathlon, the St. Croix Half Ironman, or the St. Croix International, which was in the US Virgin Islands in the Caribbean, was a famous race that was on the global circuit. And so I was aware of these races. And then, well, she won Hawaii, and it was big news. It was sort of got some mainstream media attention. And we had a couple of athletes who were punching above their weight on the global circuit. Well, she was one. McKeely Jones was another one. And yes, I was very well aware of the sport. I used to read about it in the newspaper, see some races on television. We had a couple of series in Australia that were on television, and I had been doing my little running training and my swimming. And one thing I did get into from a guy I met at the pool, what we used to call biathlons, they're now called aquathons. Yeah. So they were just swim run races. Yep. And mate, back in the 90s, the mid-90s, they were everywhere. Every surf club used to run them on a Friday night. So we'd drive over and do them at Manly Beach, Shelley Beach, Manly. You could do them at Coogee. They used to have races at Bondi. And they'd mix the format up. Sometimes it was swim run. Sometimes it was run swim. They were at all different distances. So I probably did those type of multi-sport, like biathlon events, for 6 or 12 months before I ever did a triathlon. And yeah, one thing led to another. My best mate at uni actually at the time, or one of my good mates, was a high-level cyclist who used to do triathlons for cross-training. And I was always badgering him with questions about the sport. He said, man, you just need to try it. Yeah. So I bought a bike out of the trading post, and on a Thursday, I did my first one down in Kurnell on the Sunday, and that's how it started.
Man, that's so cool. You talked about like building capacity, and or even growing up, you looking at the Coolangatta Gold, you looked at the Hawaiian Ironman. Similar, like I loved watching the Coolangatta Gold growing up. I was a little clubby growing up as well, so I used to watch these things, but I never thought that I was able to do them. I always thought that was like, nah, they're for crazy people. Yeah. Was it a similar space back then, like looking at an Ironman when you were like just starting getting into these triathlons? Like, was that something that you wanted to get into, that really long distance stuff?
Well, it was crazy because I thought I was, and still am to this day, I was more suited to the shorter distance, the sprint distance, and I was more a speed athlete growing up, I guess, and not the top, not the pure 100, 200 speed, but yeah, as I said, at the school athletics carnivals, the 400s and 800s that I always did well at. But yeah, no, I used to look at the Nutrigrain or the Uncle Toby series, and they were just fit guys and girls. They were fit, rippling muscles, going over these longer distances, and same with the Hawaiian Ironman. When I'd watch it and they talk through the distances: 3.8k swim, 180k bike, 42.2k run. I thought that's just crazy work.
Right.
I mean, not only are they covering that distance, the top athletes are racing it. Yeah. And yeah, so for me, that just felt somewhere off into the distance, and it was totally intimidating. So I just started with what I knew. First races I did were sprint distance races, which for those who don't know, it's either a 500 or 750 meter swim, a 20k bike, and a 5k run, and that seemed like a long way at the time. So I do those, and then that natural progression, I went up to what they call sort of the international distance, 1k, 30k, 8 or 10k run, and then the Olympic distance, which is a little bit longer again, more of like an hour 45 to a 2 hour event. And it was probably 2 years of doing those. And again, I guess, we, on our journeys, we have pivotal moments. And one of mine was getting called in to train with the Australian team. I did a World Cup race, which I was telling you about, and I finished 4th and got called in, which was off the charts because I was a full-time uni student studying to be a physiotherapist, had part-time jobs, and I just got invited to do this World Cup race in Auckland, New Zealand. I finished 4th. Some of the best athletes in our sport were there. As a young athlete, like most young athletes, I was very, very inconsistent. So I could throw out a result like that, or just as likely I could throw out a 50th or 60th place and not know why. But I was lucky I had a good race that day. I got invited to train. The high performance manager, the national Australian high performance manager, invited me to train with sort of the national team. They were training at Thredbo a few weeks later. and I met Greg Walsh. So the guy I'd seen on television winning the Ironman in Hawaii, the reason I got into the sport really. Next thing you know, I'm rubbing shoulders with him and doing training sessions with him, and we're still great mates. Actually, when we were downstairs having coffee just before, I was messaging him Welshie. Gotcha. So he's still one of my good mates in the sport. But yeah, I pestered him with questions, and he was also great, always so gracious with all the young athletes. Yeah. But one of the things he said to me was, you know, the good athletes in our sport are consistent. They race at the same level, race in, race out, and they're also versatile. You know, they can race on different styles of courses, hilly and flat. They can race competitively over different distances. So he said to me, make sure, you know, in the back of your mind, with your training and you're doing things to be one of those athletes. Yeah. So that was, we had that training camp January of 1997, and he said to me, you know, you test the waters with some longer distance racing with some half Ironmans. So it was March. It was 2 months after that conversation I did my first ever half Ironman, which was the New South Wales Champs out in country New South Wales, Cowra. And yeah, I won the race. I'd had my bike stolen the week before. I had to get a new bike in race week.
Talk about versatility there.
Yeah, well, that's right. Having to scramble and pivot. Yeah. But yeah, and it was a different challenge to the shorter ones. And I didn't love it more or less. I loved it as much. The shorter ones are about the gun goes off, you rev your engine into the red, it's flat out. The longer ones are hard like that, but it's a little bit more strategic as well. And you have a lot of time to think about what's going on, and your mindset impacts your performance in those longer ones, especially the longer the race goes on.
How so?
Well, you hear about people say you've got to have a positive mindset. You've got to be a glass half full. I mean, they're throwaway lines, but there's actually so much legitimacy behind what they're talking about, because all of us in any given situation have a first default thought, and whether that's positive or negative leads us on to feel a certain way, and then we act on those feelings. So our outcome is directly related to how we think. Yeah. The thoughts, feelings, actions triangle. You can read about that. Any psychologist will talk about how your thoughts, we are who we are, but you can train your thoughts a little bit too. There's mental strategies that, you can be in a bad situation, things can be going wrong, but if you can find one positive pathway through to a good outcome and hang your hat on that, you need to just go all in on that, which is not to say you're going to get that outcome, but it's the only chance you've got to get it.
Was there any standout experiences in your pro career that you could have taken the glass half full strategy, or I guess like experience, but then you could pivot? Was there any things that stand out?
A lot. Yeah. Every race was a learning experience, but there were so many times it was reinforced to me that you can be in the best physical and physiological shape of your life, but if you're not in a good place mentally, if you're not understanding why you're doing it, what it is exactly and specifically you're trying to do, what's your plan to get there, emotionally happy, feeling supported, feeling grateful that you've got that support. There were so many times in my career where I wasn't in my best physical shape, but I had performances that just superseded what I thought.
Really?
And vice versa. Yeah. There were times when my training, everything indicated great performance, great race, but for some reason just couldn't get the head in the right place, started getting negative, confidence got eroded for whatever reason. And I mean, the mind-body connection is strong, and the mind is in charge. The mind rules the body. So, and I saw it with other athletes too. I mean, one of the best things that ever happened to me coming through as a younger athlete was getting to train with some of the best in my sport, male and female. I learned equally from all of the great athletes. And what you learn from them is, yes, winning's important, but it's about so much more than winning. It's about getting the most out of yourself. Their journey is about continuous improvement. That's their obsession. The obsession's not winning. So that became my blueprint. My obsession, I became more obsessed with improving than I was with winning. And I saw that so many times, in my career. There was one situation I raced a guy. It was one of my first seasons racing in the US. And this guy represented the UK. He'd been born in South Africa, Simon Lessing, and he won the race. I finished second. And it was a World Cup race, like second tier World Cup race. So it was a high level race. And usually people had the day off after the race just to recover. And we'd raced just south of LA actually and flown back to Boulder. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go to the pool and do a recovery, flush my body out, do a bit of technical work, some drills. And I get to the pool and Simon's already in the water.
Yeah.
And I sort of jokingly said, mate, what are you doing here? I thought you might have the day off. And he said, why would I have the day off? I said, well, you won yesterday. And he said, you know, with the greatest respect, mate, winning yesterday only means that I finished ahead of you guys. It doesn't mean that I performed the way I should have performed.
Interesting.
Yeah, and every experience I had with athletes of his level, it was always the same. You know, we live in a world where we continuously compare ourselves externally to others. And these great athletes, it was an internal comparison. Yes, it's important that I perform well because that's how I get paid. But most importantly is how am I tracking compared to where I should be, where I'm currently at in my training plan, with my goals, how am I tracking towards those? It was that internal comparison that they held themselves most accountable to. So again, that just became my blueprint. So they were always, they could be happy, but they were never content. They always wanted more. And so, I think that's a great mindset because, you know, as a young athlete coming up through the ranks, it's inevitable you get compared to others. Coaches will do it, selectors will do it, sponsors will do it, media will do it. But somehow you have to bring it back to your own journey. And you know, for me, that was always where I just get in the best rhythm and the best zone in training, where I just checking off my own metrics, that sort of continuous improvement over time was the goal, and just hold myself accountable to that.
I think it's that piece is so interesting because I think especially with social media at the moment, we're seeing so many more people wanting to push it, right? With marathons, with ultra marathons, with Ironmans, and it's even like those backyard ultras that people are doing that are just insane.
Yeah.
But it seems like us everyday folk are starting to more intertwine that into our own lifestyles. Like, how do we push that and potentially jumping a few ranks rather than just enjoying the process, right? Do you think that stuff is healthy? Because you say it's good to push it, right? I think it's great to push it. But do you think sometimes we get in the trap of like maybe jumping a few pegs too early? What are your thoughts on that?
Potentially physically we do, because there's no short-circuiting the training that you need to do. But hopefully you enjoy the process. I mean, that's part of the journey. Well, that is the journey. I mean, it's a cliche, but, you know, everyone's all in on the destination, but it's the things you learn along the way, the people you meet. I mean, you asked me straight off the bat today, you know, do I miss the competitive itch? What I miss is the lessons and pushing myself and the people. That's what I miss the most. And having purpose in my training, having my day accounted for, every second of it, 4 training sessions, the mental work that goes in it, in and around that. But, you know, there's no right or wrong answer to that. I think if people are doing it for the right reason, they understand why they're doing it. You know, the ultra marathons, some of these charitable runs across Australia, I love it. If people are doing it for their own reasons, you can't go wrong if you're being true to who you are. You can never go wrong. Of course, the secondary piece to that is you need to prepare yourself physically as well. So hopefully you've got some good people around you who can help you, training partners, coaches, advisors. So, no, I'm loving it. I'm loving this renaissance of running. It feels like, you know, when I first got into the sport of triathlon, people were right up for challenging themselves, and it wasn't about any other reason than, you know, I'm going to be in this race and I'm going to get challenged, and how am I going to respond? And I used to be on the start line thinking that. Some of the toughest races, you know, I'd be on the start line thinking, the fear for me was not about winning or losing. It was, how am I going to respond when the whips are cracking? Because that's what basically the question I'm going to have to answer at some point today. And, you know, you'd always sit there at the press conferences before races, and people would ask, how are you going to go? Can you go deep this weekend? And you give the sexy answer. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to go deep. And but then a little bit of you's wondering, because every situation's different. When you're young and hungry and coming up through the ranks, you can meet that challenge, but you probably don't have the physical prowess or the experience. You get to some point in your career where you have the experience and the physical prowess, but do you have the fight and the hunger anymore mentally? So you've always got to check those boxes wherever you are in your career. And, you know, I see people doing all sorts of challenges, backyard ultras, and I love it. Again, I think it's healthy if they're doing it for the right reasons. And, you know, you hear people say all the time, what's your why? I think if you can answer that question well in a meaningful way, you can't go too far wrong.
Yeah, I think like starting to get into the ultra marathon, even like Ironman space since leaving footy, it was the first time since leaving footy where I could genuinely challenge myself, right? Like I think footy, there were so many times whether you were injured or it was just so hard physically. There were so many times where you didn't know whether you could keep going.
Yeah.
And then the ability to be able to push through that and then sit down at the end of the game thinking, far out, like I've passed the ceiling of what I thought I could have. And then since finishing that, jumping into an ultra like a year afterwards, that was the first time since then when I was like, I don't know if I could keep going. And then similar, starting to do some Ironman training and similar things. So I think it's really healthy to be able to put yourself in those positions where you're unsure if you can get through it. Because then once you get through it, you're like, I pushed the ceiling, and then you can probably start applying that to other areas of your life, right? Because you're like, oh, I could do this hard thing here. Like, can I do that with my business or my family? What are some of the biggest lessons that you've taken from your pro Ironman career that you've taken into your everyday life, whether that's business or family? Is there anything that stands out?
Mate, there's a lot. And two of them are what you just mentioned, is that we can do hard stuff. And our ceiling is way past where we think it is. And sometimes the best place to be is in that uncomfortable place where you are trying to figure it out, and you have to fight and scrap and get help for every little inch that you're after. You know, sometimes you get to what you might consider your physiologic ceiling, and now you've got to come up with other strategies, mental strategies, nutrition, and other ways to surpass what you thought was possible. So, I mean, I think one of the biggest things I learned was, as humans, a lot of the time we are up for the challenge, and we do like to do hard stuff, and it's a nice feeling, right, when you do it. Yeah. And it's surprising some of the time. You just, well, wow, I didn't see that coming, or you're just proud of yourself. I responded. That's how I hoped I would respond in that situation. And it's one thing to sit around and talk about it, but to do it. But, you know, I think some of the biggest lessons that I learned, well, firstly, I studied as a physio. So, you know, that knowledge helped me a lot. So having knowledge and an understanding of the thing that you're trying to do and how do you need to improve, and hopefully at some point become really proficient, and then hopefully further again master it at some point. Like understand the performance components you need to get better at. And of course in a sport, one of those is the physical training, consistency, repetition, keep showing up. There's a lot of lessons in around that. Sometimes you grind away for months, and you know the way that physiological adaptations work is you don't see a difference, but you have to have faith in the process and just keep showing up, and understand that things are happening that are going to help you in your race or whatever it is. So there's one of the lessons: patience. Keep showing up. Sometimes you don't see the improvements for months on end, but just have faith in the process and keep showing up. The mental component of performance, what we talked about before, just trying to develop, you know, we're all on a spectrum of, I guess, eternal optimist to eternal pessimist. Most of us, I think, are probably somewhere in the middle, but understanding how your thoughts do impact your outcomes. So work on that. You know, visualization, mental strategies. Another big lesson, you know, I think it's a mistake to believe that even the most driven of personalities are 100% motivated every day. Like you're not jumping out of bed when the alarm goes off at 4 a.m, clicking your heels some days. In fact, most days you're not when you're in the grind. So understanding that motivation is important. Why we're doing something will get us out of bed on a lot of mornings, but motivation ebbs and flows. So this was a big lesson for me. And nothing erodes motivation more than physical fatigue. So if you're training for a physical pursuit, you're going to lack motivation some days. So that leads, the segue then is to one of the most undervalued of human traits, which is discipline. When motivation wanes, discipline will pick up the slack. And you need to be disciplined enough to do the things that you don't feel like doing on a daily basis, so much so that they become part of your routine and they become subconscious behaviors. So you need discipline, self-discipline. So that was a big lesson. But, you know, you need to surround yourself with good people. I was in an individual sport I mean, and you would know this, you play team sports and now you're doing an individual sport, but you still need a good team around you. Some advisors, coaches, good advice.
Yeah.
Emotional support on the home front. It's challenging. You need, I think it always starts at home and the personal support. For me, that's where it always starts. And then, getting the help you need. You need to, have you ever heard this saying, you want to get to know somebody, show me their friends? Well, that rings true in sport, and I think in business too. So you need to surround yourself with good people. A big lesson that sport taught me, that is especially high level sport, is, in the social media age and this age of hacks and quick fixes, that we're all desperate for. I guess football coaches call them the 1%ers, the marginal gains. And they are important, but they're the icing, they're not the cake.
Yeah.
For the marginal gains to come into play, you need to bake the cake before you put the icing on. And you need to do all the fundamental things right. The consistent training, the repetition, the right sort of training at the right time, the right mental practice and visualization. All of those things, you have to check those boxes. And the marginal gains, I'm not saying are not important, but they only come into play when you do the basic things correctly. And I think there's a tendency to want to fast track things and short circuit things. And aerobic conditioning is one of those things you can't fast track. It's like growing a business, growing a customer base. It doesn't happen overnight. So there's a lot of the little daily tasks that you just have to immerse yourself in. And not only immerse yourself in and accept, but embrace it. That is the journey. But then there's some polish you can put on it later. So
you mentioned all the things that go into the cake, right? Like consistency, discipline, patience, not getting ahead of yourself, right? All those things. If I was sitting at probably a 5 or a 6 out of 10, what do you think the biggest thing or the top 2 things are that would get me to a 8, 9, 10?
Well, I think the answer to that is whether you're at a 9 out of 10 or a 1 out of 10 is, again, consistency and repetition.
Yep.
But the nuance comes as you get to a high level in what that repetition and consistency, what the day-to-day now looks like. So for an endurance athlete, zone 2 is always a great default and a great place to start. I think to run fast in races, you need to run fast in training as well. So what's the mix of lower intensity to higher intensity? What does that higher intensity look like? Because the higher the load, the higher the risk of injury. But I keep things simple. For an endurance sport, consistency and repetition is important, but also is technical proficiency in any activity that requires the same motion over and again. Efficiency is going to be huge. So it's not about speeding up. Like you ran the marathon yesterday.
Yeah.
Even the top runners. I mean, we were blessed. We had 2 of the best in the world, 2 of the best in history, actually. Eliud Kipchoge and Safan Hassan came out to run. What a treat for the local running community. And even they're not negative splitting. They're trying to even split the race. And I guess the dynamic or the strategy in world-class marathon running is there are certain segments within the race, 5K segments, where the elite men or the elite women might drop a quicker 5K to break the pack up. But generally speaking, they're trying to ration their effort as a steady state effort. And only the world-class endurance athletes can throw in that sort of a quicker segment in the middle or potentially even a negative split. But usually it's an even split. So for most athletes, it's not about speeding up, it's about not slowing down. So I always think the focus should be repetition, consistency, a little sprinkling of speed, and work on your technical efficiency. In running, your stride, your cadence, your core strength. There's a lot of bang for buck in those things.
Did you always get it right in your 25-year career? Is that something that was learnt throughout that time?
Well, I was lucky again that I was doing a physio degree when I started in the sport. So I understood the importance of moving correctly, not only for endurance, but for anything. The body works best when it works and operates and the muscles fire the way they're meant to. But no, I didn't always get it right. I mean, I was a physio student who ended up with shin splints and low-grade stress fractures in his shins and tried to run through it. And, one of the best things that happened was I just went and saw a physio, got treatment from a friend. And, of course, he looks, the symptoms are pain in the shins, but he took a deep look and he said, oh, man, your core, terrible core strength, you're weak. You need to work on this and that. And again, it came down to just moving more effectively, which leads to efficient performance, but also injury prevention. So that was a good lesson to learn early. So no, I didn't always get it right. Even later in the career, you know, I think at the highest level of sport, pushing the envelope, you make mistakes and overstep the mark. Reaching for those breakthrough performances or best ever performances, you know, particularly when you're racing at world championships and the marginal gains are in play. I mean, one year in Hawaii, I changed equipment one year to the next, and physically I actually didn't perform as well as I had the year before. My average power on the bike was a bit lower, my average heart rate, which means that I actually didn't go as hard. But I went 13 minutes quicker on the bike and yeah, about 10 minutes quicker overall. So again, it comes down to, at some point you got to box smart, not just you know, work smarter, not harder. So, but no, I didn't always get it right. And you know, I think it's one of the, to previous question about the lessons, one of the, I guess, primary mindsets I had when I started my triathlon career as a 21-year-old. I mean, I didn't have this idea that I was going to win world titles. I just wanted to push myself and challenge myself. And I liked the idea of being outside and training. And when I did that first race, I was hooked. I'm like, this is cool. You know, look at all these people. We're running around, 2,000 of us running around fit, healthy. It's a challenge. Everyone's trying to get faster. You get caught up in that wave. But there are so many obstacles along the way. And, you know, in my soccer career, when things got hard, it just petered out really quickly. So the main, I guess, primary objective I had was in triathlon was just hang in there a little longer. Like when, and that's what you work out, you know, I think when you're 13, 14, 15, maybe late teens, even early 20s, getting into sports or even starting your own business, you think it's going to be smooth sailing. You know, the masters of their domain just have it all figured out, and their progression is linear and steep. And you work out it's not that. No matter who you are, there's peaks and troughs, and hopefully you're trending up over time, but there's down periods, and you just got to hang in there. You got to be resilient. You know, as an athlete, one good performance doesn't make a great season. It certainly doesn't make a great career, but one bad one doesn't end it either. It's about the learnings, and for me, it was always the same. You know, you have a race, the team would get together, we'd have a few beers and celebrate, or we'd think, geez, that didn't go well, and do the little post-mortem, and then back to training the next day. You know, the only difference was how many beers you had, whether it was a good race or a bad one, but the process was the same. Because again, the obsession wasn't winning, it was continuous improvement. So, but yeah, certainly nice. For me, the winning was nice because the team, you know, my wife, all her support, the people I had, my training partners, they got so much out of me winning that I got a lot more out. I was like, that's cool. And so we'd have a good night out, and that's what I enjoyed about the winning.
Kind of, does that kind of tie into your why? I know we spoke about our why this morning at coffee, and you said yours kind of changed throughout your career. Can you tell me about that progression from when you first started to the middle and then transitioning out? Yeah,
so again, I came into the sport. I feel I did have an itch to scratch because for some reason I always thought I could be a competitive athlete. And again, that didn't mean making money out of the sport or winning world titles or those things. I just thought I could be competitive and push myself, and I wanted to do that. So that was the why. When I started, you know, doing those biathlons and running and swimming, it was like, okay, I've got to get quicker. I've got to push myself a bit harder. The sessions have to get longer. They have to get a bit faster. And so that was the why. It's like, I like this sport. It challenges me, and I want to see how far I can push myself. So that was the simple challenge. Get the best out of yourself every day. And again, I was lucky I understood the benefits of repetition and consistency. I'm not going to start in an endurance sport and be a world beater 6 months from now. It's going to be a long journey, so buckle up. But it was just about trying to be better day in, day out, and check all those boxes. So that led me into getting, progressing through the sport quite rapidly, getting a pro license within about 12 months, racing the elites and the best in Australia. And again, it's again, I didn't think I need to win this, but I was swept up in it all. A rising tide floats all boats. I'm now racing better people, so I want to be better.
Yeah.
I want to be better. And I think that's a mindset that I carried throughout my whole career. It was always just about, checking the boxes each day, going to bed a better athlete than what I woke up, whether that was physically, mentally, or something that I'd worked on. Hopefully a few things that had made me a better athlete. I carried that right through. But I think as you change as a person, your motivations change. I know I was always grateful for my wife's support. We started going out the year I started doing triathlons.
Really?
Yeah, and then got married.
Did she know what she was signing up to with all the with all the travel?
I don't know. But I have no doubt that the career I had, whatever that was in large part because I had her. I had so much emotional stability, support when things would go. Mate, I nearly retired 10 different times. And not because I wasn't improving. I was improving, but there wasn't a lot of money. People I'd gone through college with or university have now graduated. They've got practices. You're not immune to seeing what your peers and your social network are doing. I felt guilty. Is this selfish? And she would always say the same thing, man, you're still improving. You're getting better. And
because they would come on the road with you, right? I did mention that you were one of the early adopters of like having all your kids there, your partner there.
100%.
Right?
So the year I graduated from uni, and I was meant to take my hospital placement, but I got invited again off that 4th place finish in Auckland. I met one of the French coaches, and he invited me to go and race for a French club in 1990. So I graduated in April 1997, and I was on a plane 2 weeks later to head to Europe for 6 months to race. And Neri, my now wife, then girlfriend, came with me.
Yeah.
And so, we did all the stints together. And then when we had kids, it was the same. I mean, the sport follows, it's a summer sport, so it follows, I guess, mainly the Northern Hemisphere summer. The main races in our sport run from April through to October. Yeah. So, you have to live overseas for a large part of the year, and I didn't want to do it without my family. So in the beginning, it was just Neri and I, then it was Neri, Lucy and I, then it was Neri, Lucy, Austin and I, and then it was Neri, Lucy, Austin, Lani and I. So, and I love it. In the beginning, it was so funny because particularly when those years we were in Boulder, Colorado, training up at altitude, and we'd get there early in the season, I'd be training, and a lot of the other boys would say to me, man, I don't know how you do it with your family. How do you get the recovery? And then, 3 or 4 weeks into it, we'd be having a barbecue at our place, and they'd be like, oh man, I'm so homesick. I'm missing my family. And I'm like, and it swings. It's like, maybe you lose a little bit on the recovery, but the emotional uplift you get having them there every day.
Man. Even when you're racing, right? Like, because I remember the race yesterday, there was a little time probably at like the 30-kilometer mark where I was really hurting. I had my headphones in. I just put my hat down and I was just grinding it out. But then I saw 2 of my best mates. I saw my partner and I saw our filmmaker, who's now a really good friend as well. And I saw all of them, and they just had the biggest smiles on their faces. And it just gave me this like bit of energy. So I can imagine similar, but on a much grander scale, right?
No, it's the same scale. I mean, I think all we hope for is, I don't know. I know when I saw my family, and I felt, my wife had put her career on hold so we could travel as well. So I felt that pressure and just, not even pressure. I just felt I have to honor her sacrifice. And that doesn't mean I have to win. But again, I have to do the things that I know I need to do. And but one of the toughest races I ever had in Hawaii was 2012. I was defending the title and
had just won it in 2011.
Yeah. I'd won it for the 3rd time in 2011, and also won the half Ironman World Champs that year as well.
Was that the first time someone had won both in the same year?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
it was.
Gotcha.
So I was defending the 2 world titles, and actually in Boulder I hurt myself. I hurt my back lifting in the gym. Just getting old body. Body didn't respond how it used to. And I wasn't even lifting, which is embarrassing. I was just moving a weight, but I didn't square up. And I was able to manage it. And I got to the half Ironman World Championships and still had a great race, still got the silver medal, which was one of my best performances, I think, because with that back thing going on. And but by the time I got to Kona, I couldn't hold my position on the bike, and you know, I had a great swim. I think I got up to the turn at Harvey, about 100K into the bike. I was still in third, or I was still in the top 5. But anyway, I couldn't hold the aero position after that. And it was the first time I'd ever had to walk in a marathon. First time I'd ever run over 3 hours. I think I did a 3:05 that year, and I walked a lot of it. And but a lot of my family had flown from Australia to watch. And I was doing an interview after the race, and I was with a guy I knew. He's a mate, and he said, "Oh, it must have been so hard, maybe borderline embarrassing." And I said, "You know what? It actually wasn't." And I can't remember. I think I finished 12th. I ended up still finishing 12th at a world title.
Yeah.
So I soldiered on. But it wasn't that hard. Like initially, there was in the race feelings of disappointment that I hadn't been able to put up a worthy title defense, but you know, I'd had family flying from Australia, and they hadn't watched me for a few years, and I thought, you know what, they're here to watch him, and the same experience as you had yesterday when you saw your crew. It's uplifting, and they're just happy that you're out there doing something you love.
Yeah. Of
course, they love it when you do well.
Yeah.
But for them, it's more, how good's this? Yeah. We're on the big island of Hawaii. Craig's out there running around, and that puts things into perspective. And you know, so I think there's a lot to unpack. As when you're a pro athlete, your mindset is your job to win. What is your job? What is your purpose? And I think with more experience, you understand you're just lucky to be out there, to be honest. Yeah. And if you do have the odd win, and I mean, by definition, as a pro athlete, you're going to lose a lot more than you win in any sport. So, you know, it wasn't hard to soldier on and take my medicine that year and walk a little in the marathon. And it's a hard race. And really, that's the experience a lot of people have out there. So you just suck it up and get it done.
Why is Hawaii notorious for being one of the best, biggest races, Ironman races in the world? Like, what is it about Hawaii? Obviously, it's the oldest, but what is it about it that's special?
I think, for me personally, what I remember is flicking on the wide world of sports and seeing the race, and it had always opened with that helicopter shot of the aqua blue ocean and then the black lava fields. It's kind of a unique landscape. And the road that you ride on, part of the course is just carved through that lava rock.
Yeah.
And then they have the shots of the palm trees blowing sideways, and it's just a harsh, exposed environment. So that's the first thing. I'm like, this is just an island in the middle of the Pacific, and they're running this crazy race.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
Yeah.
So I think how harsh the conditions are, the history. I mean, triathlon's grown into a lot of unbelievable things. We're now in the Olympic Games. We're everywhere, and all of those things are great for our sport. But sports have a history, and that's our history. That's kind of what that race in Hawaii piggybacked our sport for a long time. So there's that aspect. It was a mythical race. You had to qualify to get there. It's the world champs. It's hot. It's humid. It's windy. It's hilly, and it's the world championship. So it's the deepest and most competitive field that you'll race all season. So I think all of those things just make it a special race. For me, it was the history of it, and just the challenge, the harshness of the environment.
Yeah.
Now, I'll never forget, I went there and trained in 2006 for 2 weeks. And my plan was to race there, because I raced short course a lot of my career in the US on the short course circuit. But my plan was to race Hawaii in 2007. So one of the best things I did was go there and train for 2 weeks in 2006. And you get off the plane and you're like, oh, this is crazy. Who trains here and races here? The heat, the humidity. But yeah, your body adjusts. You get all those physiological adaptations and, you know, you do the heat adaptation training. But it's, I think for me, it'd be like a golfer watching the Masters and then going to tee off at Augusta or something like that. So that's how I felt when I went there. And, you know, when I was there training, I was like a kid in a candy store. I remember this part from on television. And this is the energy lab. How cool. This is a Lee drive. And so I was, as much as I was in the sport as a pro athlete, I was a fan of the sport as well. So for me, they were amazing experiences, just getting to go there and train for the first time.
That must be so cool, like watching it, like seeing it, and then being able to race it. It's kind of like what Swift do, right? Where you can race courses or ride courses that are actually out there. I saw that, and when I started looking into it, I was like, man, this is so cool. Like being able to actually ride a race in Hawaii or over in Europe, but then actually going over there to do it would just be insane.
Mate, it's awesome. And psychologically and mentally, there's a lot of research to show that sort of mental practice, very specific. So if you can visualize, or you can actually ride the course even virtually, when you get there, it feels like you've been here before. There's a sense of calm. Like, I remember this. It's amazing. I mean, the technology these days and the training landscape for athletes, I think it's amazing. I mean, you know, I don't like to say in my day, because my day was only not that long ago. But
you're still competing. What do you mean, mate?
Trying to. But yeah, it's just amazing that how technology and innovation comes into every space, and it's come into sport. And, you know, the athletes, like you talk about these different platforms you can train on, the wearable tech we have now to track our performance and how we just understand what a lot of that means, so you can train better and smarter. So, yeah, no, it's awesome. I'm glad I'm still involved with it, but it's like going through uni again.
Yeah. It's such a steep learning curve when you first start something, right? Like you're now coaching me for my first Ironman, which is coming up at the back end of this year. Which obviously I've got such a head start having you as my
coach. Let's hope it works out like that.
Well, let's just get through it first. So we've got to get over this knee injury, but mate, just coming into the sport, I think we talked about like the rise of running, the rise of people wanting to do triathlons and Ironman and these ultra-based events. What is some advice that you could give me now that I'm just starting this like Ironman journey?
Well, I gave it to you in one of our first phone calls, which is be consistent, don't get sick, don't get injured.
Yeah.
When you're wondering, should I do a bit more, or a training plan, you need a plan, but it's only ever a plan. And I feel the best plans have some flexibility in them, and every great sort of coach-athlete relationship, the flow of information should go two ways. Yeah. It's not just about the coach dictating. I mean, you're the athlete. It's your experience. And nobody knows your body like you do. So, you know, when you said to me, I've got a crew going out to ride along, I'm like, go do it.
Yeah.
You know, one of the best things in our sport is the social aspect of not only the camaraderie on race day, but training with other people, sharing the journey, sharing the workload. There's more than one way to train. So, but you've just got to monitor your load, and that would be the advice. I mean, as much as we have access to all this information now, you've got to understand what it means and try and keep things as simple as possible in amongst all of that.
Yeah.
Get these metrics and monitor your training stress, your load, but make smart, common sense decisions. Another conversation we had was, you like open water swimming? I said, do more of it.
Yeah.
Whatever enhances your compliance and your ability to be consistent and get in the water more frequency, it's a good idea.
I think the hardest thing that I'm battling with now is trying to get training in alongside work and family life. And I imagine that's probably the most common challenge for your everyday person who is working full time, have a family, and do this thing. That's probably the hardest thing, especially when I don't have a trainer at home, which I've just recently purchased. But trying to get all these little things in and trying to structure it within the day of even now, like traveling. Like we've been on the road for the last 3 weeks. When I went to Melbourne last week, and I had the hotel which I saw had a pool, and I was like, that's great. Like I sent you a photo of the Roka wetsuit, and I was just like, I was so excited because I was like, I get to swim in my new wetsuit, and I went to the pool, and it was like a 10-meter pool that was like it was just like like my knee height, right? And I was like, I can't do a swim session here. So, but that was like, and then when I missed that session, I was like, now I'm in my head about, well, now I'm missing sessions, and I get stuck in my head about it. Any thoughts on that? Because that's probably the thing that I'm struggling with most at the moment.
A lot of thoughts on that, and mate, I'm sure a lot of people listening will relate to that. That is the challenge in a nutshell. How do you find the balance between doing the training to check off your goals and ambitions, whatever they are, and all goals and ambitions for everyone are worthwhile.
Yeah.
They're personal, and if they're meaningful to you, they're worthwhile. So how do you fit that in amongst work life, family life, finding that balance? And my first thing would be realistic about the training hours you have each week, and even err on the side of caution with that to start with, and just hit those hours, and try and be as consistent as you can. And if things pop up where you get more training in a week, great. If things pop up where you get less, don't be so hard on yourself. You got to meet yourself where you're at physically and mentally. It's the accumulation of work over the weeks and months that will stand you in good stead. But you need to plan, and you need to do some research. Like the traveling athlete will research about pools or places to swim locally. One of the great things about running is all you need is a pair of running shoes. You can run anywhere. Yeah. What I found with swimming is there's a lot of great pools that have public lane space. One thing I used to do when I traveled was I bought a swim tether.
What's that?
It's like an elastic bungee cord that you put around your waist, and you anchor it on the side of a pool that's only 10 meters long.
Gotcha.
So you need to look into that. There's a lot of swim equipment companies that do a swim tether.
Yeah.
And you swim. It's like running on a treadmill. You swim in place in one spot,
and it replicates it pretty closely.
Pretty good. Not exactly the same, but what I found for me personally was because it anchors you around the waist, it actually evened out my swimming stroke a little bit, because what happens is you swim against the tether and you get a bit of a tension, and then you've got to hold that tension. So you've got to even out your stroke so you're not one side more dominant than the other.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it actually became a good technical tool for my swimming.
Right.
And I started doing it once a week, even when I had access to 50-meter pools.
Yeah.
So dry land work, get a set of swim cords.
Yeah.
I always used to travel with swim cords.
What are swim cords?
Again, they're like a bungee cord that you anchor on the top of a door or something, and it's like dry land work that you can do. So you can activate and turn on the swimming muscles. And actually, I used to do a little 15 or 20-minute workout to load those muscles.
Really?
To keep the frequency of keeping them working, yeah.
Is it like lifting weights where you do sets, or would you just do it continuously?
Yeah, I'll just do it continuously for 2 or 3 minutes at a time, take a little break. Or you can do it like weights. Like the further you move away, the higher the load, because it's stretch. And you can also get different thickness and tension cords. So I do it for a few different things, for stretching the shoulders out, but also for activating the muscles in as specifically as possible. I mean, in reality, the specificity and transfer of training effects dictate that the best thing to do is swim, bike, and run.
Yeah.
But short of doing those things, there's things we can do in and around those things where can be quite specific, and there is a transfer effect. And there's a lot of exercises in the gym where the strength gains transfer well into the real world of swim, biking, and running. So
what are they?
So, for instance, running or cycling, I used to do incline leg press, back and front squats. A good running exercise, I think, is lunging.
Yeah. Single leg work.
A lot of single leg work makes any single leg work is really specific because you're using the hip muscles and your core like you do when you run.
Gotcha.
So the hip has to stabilize with one leg in stance phase and one leg in swing phase. And same on the bike, you're pedaling sort of one leg at a time as well. So you've got to stabilize that pelvis and keep it locked in. So a lot of step ups. So then simple exercises like a step up, and then you can combine movements, a step up into an overhead shoulder press with the core locked out. So yeah, I mean, a lot of single leg stuff on a step, single leg squats, single leg stepping out to the front, to the side. Lunges, I think, are one of the best running exercises for strengthening, but also strengthening very specifically, like when you sink into a lunge, you know, your front leg's obviously working, but your back hip flexors loading eccentrically into into hip extension. So it's working while it's getting longer, basically, without wanting to get too technical. And all good runners, especially runners off the bike, can access good hip extension. So lunge is a great exercise. I mean, upper body for swimming, lat pull downs, seated rows, push-ups. There's a lot of things you can do that are not probably ideal or in your training plan, but are going to help you somewhat. It's better than doing nothing. In fact, I'm selling it short by saying it's better than doing nothing. They're just beneficial to do. But it's the eternal question as a mum or dad athlete. How do I fit the training in around the kids' sport? And you want to do it. You got to be at all those events. Yeah. So it means early mornings. It means being creative with your thinking, getting a bike trainer so you can train when it's dark. Yeah. In the evenings or in the mornings. You might only have a 45-minute window, but if the bike trainer's set up in the garage, you can get on there and maybe just crank out a 20-minute FTP test. Yeah. That's a good training session.
Gotcha.
So there's ways you can do it. You just need to be creative. But there's some training tools or aids you can get. Like I mentioned, the swim cords, the tether. Knowing your bike position. You know, I find a lot of hotel gyms now are well better equipped than they've ever been.
Really?
Yeah. So you get there's training bikes in the gym, stationary bikes, like Concept 2 bikes.
Yeah.
So the Concept 2 bike. So if you know your bike position, you can almost set up a Concept 2 in your identical bike setup.
Gotcha.
And then do a good session on a Concept 2. It's better than not doing anything.
Yeah.
And your body, your joint angles are going to be roughly the same if you know your seat height and that sort of setback position of your seat behind the bottom bracket. I always used to travel with my bike sort of setup, my bike position, so I could set up a gym bike roughly the same. And most of them, especially the Concept 2 and some other bikes, you can get that fore and aft seat position, that setback behind the bottom bracket and the seat height almost identical to your own bike.
Why is it so important to have a good cycling position?
Well, it's important to have a good cycling position because ergonomically, when the muscles again are working in their best joint angles, you're going to have the most power.
Gotcha.
But also you're comfortable.
Yeah.
Being comfortable on the bike is important because you want to be able to hold that position for as long as possible. We need to hold it for a long time. But not only hold it comfortably so you can still put out a lot of power.
Yeah, gotcha.
So your bike setup's important because, again, having the muscles working the way they're meant to. So like, for instance, you don't want your seat too high so that at the bottom of the pedal stroke, your knee's fully extended. That's a recipe for an injury, a knee injury, and especially someone like you.
Yeah.
And, they say at the bottom, when your crank on the down leg is at 6 o'clock, so your foot's at the bottom of the pedal stroke, you still should have at least 5 to 8% knee bend. Again, that's important for injury prevention, but it's also important because getting to that position, your quad's working in its most effective joint angle, so you can generate the most power. So, but also the transfer of training effect. Your body gets used to a certain positions, so you want to replicate that in training as much as possible. That's why training on your own bike is preferable, or having your own bike on your own bike trainer, or just knowing your position and getting sort of replicating that or simulating that setup on a gym bike.
Because at the moment, I've just got I'm fresh, I'm new to this sport, so I'm figuring it all out. So, the learning curve is very drastic at the start, right? So having these conversations, it might just be second nature to you and to everyone else who's doing tri. But for us beginners that are coming in, it's like it's this whole world that you're stepping into. I've got a second-hand bike, which is not a TT bike. It's just like it's a normal pushy, right?
Yep.
So I'm starting to think, I say, okay, well, I need to get on a TT bike for when we do the Ironman, because I'm going to be spending so much time in that position. Yeah, and it comes down to, I'm not going to sit here and try and blow your budget, but in a perfect world as a triathlete, it'd be nice to have 2 bikes. Yeah.
The time trial bikes, the triathlon specific bikes are just quicker.
Yeah.
And the goal is always, whatever your level, if you want to go as fast as you can for whatever your, I guess, current fitness level is, and whatever your goals and ambitions are, you don't want to leave free time out there. There used to be a saying, it's not about the bike, or, you can't buy free speed. You actually can now.
Yeah.
Again, because of technology and innovation,
yeah,
wheel width, tire composition, the pressures we run the tires out when we ride, that front end sort of cockpit in a time trial bike, the bladed aerodynamic tubing on a time trial bike, it's faster.
Yeah.
And it's a very unique position that, yes, you have to train on a lot to get used to. But if you're also going to be riding in groups and doing some training, maybe a lot of climbing or descending, some real technical, then having a road bike is nice as well. And the difference is, like a road bike, if you're looking at a bike from side on, from where the center of the crank is straight up where the seat, that's called the seat tube.
Yeah.
It's always a lot more laid back on a road bike, and on a triathlon specific bike, it's a steeper angle, which is better for performance reasons, comfort reasons, because of the front end of that bike. You can get more power and open up the hip angle, but it's certainly a position, like any position, that the more you ride in that position, the more comfortable you get in it. So, but yeah, I think for you, if you can have, because I know you like to ride, and where you live up on the Goldie, there's some great climbs up in the hinterland, some technical descents. After a while, you'll get proficient on your time trial bike doing that. But again, on a time trial bike, our weight is just much further forward.
Yeah.
On a road bike, and that makes cornering and handling much safer and easier on a road bike. When your weight's further back behind the bottom bracket, it's better for cornering, better for descending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, I was on my road bike the other day, and I was coming down this hill, and like, as mentioning again, very fresh to this sport, and I was coming down this hill, and I don't know how fast we were going, but I started getting like the death wobbles, and mate, to be honest, it scared the shit out of me. Like, I couldn't remember the last time that I was genuinely scared, and I thought at one point, I was like, okay, get ready to brace. I don't know how fast we were going, maybe like 60, 70K maybe. And I was ready to come off. And then at the last moment, I think I just pedaled out of it and and smoothed it out. And then, because I want to talk about fear, right? That's something that I want to talk about. And I came out of it, but for the next maybe like 2 hours home, I was so scared going down the hills, and I was braking, and the crew that I was riding with was so much further ahead of me. Like, what are you doing? I was like, I just had the devil waffles. I thought I was going to come off. We actually had Alexa Leary on the podcast a little while ago for her first ever podcast. And she, for as much as she could remember, she talked about her accident when she was riding, when she came off. Yep. And to be honest, it scared the shit out of me. Yeah. And I haven't bombed a hill like that since. Yep. I know I was talking to Mark Matthews recently, big wave surfer, and he talked about overcoming fear as well. And a big thing was about getting back on the horse and having to do that. What are your thoughts around that? Because I've had this scare. I'm going to keep going. I know I'll do it, but overcoming that little bit of fear, have you had any experiences like that where you can lean on? Mate,
I did have the death wobbles going down a descent up on the Gold Coast over 20 years ago now. And it's frightening. And you should do a bit of reading, because I think there's things you can do, like get your weight back, bring your knees in close onto the top tube, because it's hard to explain to people who haven't ridden a bike, but your bike sort of gets in, like it's not in frequency, and it's hard to explain, but it can be due to a loose headset as well.
Well, I know I don't have a great bike. Like, it's a secondhand bike. Okay. Like, I know that's probably a large part of it.
So I guess when it happened to me, the first thing I did was get home and check my headset, and it was loose. So I think the first part in overcoming fear is making sure your equipment, like give yourself every chance of success if you're in that situation again. Yeah. So you just got to come up with some strategies to deal with it. And mate, I remember that I was the same. I didn't go down a hill as fast. I can't remember the climb we were on coming down, but it was very set. Mate, I was over 90 kilometers an hour. And you come off at that speed, and it's not going to be pretty. So what I did was the first thing I did was go and get my bike looked at. My headset had come loose. So I'd traveled up from Sydney to train on the Goldie. I hadn't tightened the headset well enough.
Gotcha.
So I got an expert to look at my bike. So now I had some confidence in my equipment, but I didn't go straight back to 90k an hour. I drip fed the speeds again. And I think, it's easy to sit back and say, oh, you've just got to face your fear, but you got to have something that, I guess, a foundation of confidence. You got to have something and for me, that was making sure my bike was working well. Yeah. And then I just went back and did it at a lower level. So I went on other climbs that weren't as technical, weren't as steep. And the more I did it and the more I exposed myself to it and saw that I had the skill set to handle it. And I know it hasn't happened to me for a long time, but I remember I read something about not touching the front brake, just touch the back brake. Gotcha. Bring your knees in close on the top tube of the bike, and that'll dampen some of the vibration, because your frame's now vibrating out of control. Yeah. And something has kicked that off. And for me, what kicked it off was the loose headset. So I just got my confidence, and I was able to get back on the horse by again doing a bit of homework. Yeah. Spoke to other cyclists, what causes this? A guy I was riding with said, mate, go to the bike shop on the way home. So that's what we did. Yeah. So I addressed that issue. And then, I just read up about it a little bit, spoke to some other people about, how I can get out of the death wobbles, how you break that cycle of the bike vibrating like that. And then just put yourself in the situation again, but not as critical a situation. Like I feel I'm better equipped to deal with it, but I'm not going to put myself at 90 plus K an hour until I can deal with it at 50K an hour, and then I can deal with it at 60K an hour. So I just sort of drip fed the degree of difficulty back into it.
Is there a bike brand or a certain bike type that would be best suited for someone like me who's probably, 95 kilos, 98 kilos, looking to obviously drop by the time we hit Brusselton at the end of the year? Is there a type of bike that you think, or even setup, that would be best suited for me?
No, I think most of the top brands are good these days.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we will match a bike to you and your body.
Sure.
So it's not the other way around. And the geometry in all the bikes is a little different. But look, all the top brands come out of pretty much the same factory.
Gotcha.
But the way they're put together is a little different. So what you need to do is find a bike that you're comfortable on. And we can get you a really ergonomic and efficient, comfortable position. That's the main thing.
Yep.
They'll have slightly different specs in terms of their seat tube, and of course there's different sizes of frames based on your height. But again, it speaks to the greater question. We're all so different mentally, physically. Like, you can have 2 6-foot male athletes next to each other, but one athlete has long torso, short legs, and vice versa. So that affects the bike fit and the bike selection. So we just need to get you on a couple of bikes, and you'll quickly figure out what's comfortable. And then we'll get you a proper bike fit, something that's going to prevent injury. Your body will be working the right way, and also give you the best chance to put out the most power.
Gotcha. Mate, I feel like there's I'm conscious of time, because I know we've been going well over an hour here. I haven't even got through the first couple points that I had in my notes here. Mate, before we do wrap things up, you've obviously had so much success in your pro career, in business, with family. How do you define success now?
Just being happy, feeling purpose in your day, and that can be going for a run. Don't have to win anything these days, just getting out the door. As I said to you yesterday, mate, when you were running the marathon, I went for a walk and had a coffee with my wife, and then went and ran in the dunes. So, and that was a nice morning for me. So I don't have to go the furthest or be the fastest like I once did. I think just doing things that you like to do. I guess people have their own definitions of success, but as you get older, I know, just as a young athlete, I couldn't see the forest for the trees half the time.
Yeah.
It's all about the next session. Have I recovered? Have I eaten enough? What is the next session? What are the metrics and benchmarks I have to hit? You just one tiny step in front of the other. You don't see the big picture.
Yeah.
And then you get to the next race. One training prep comes and goes, and a season comes and goes, and then a career comes and goes. So, I think with experience, you put things into perspective. Spending time with my family. My oldest daughter is running in college in the US now, so it's a good week for me if I get to speak to her, and I do. I probably speak to her more now on FaceTime than I did when she was living under the same roof.
Funny that, isn't it?
Yeah, but I was recently over there, and it was a sort of combined trip. There's a little bit of business, but the main part was just to visit her and immerse myself in her daily life. What does her daily life look like these days?
Gotcha.
And so that was for me a successful trip. Like, I flew home. It's kind of a melancholy feeling when your kids grow up and leave. You're 50% happy and 50% sad at any given moment, because you're just so glad they're doing something they love, and you see them in their element. You think, geez, that's awesome. But then you just don't get. I mean, what's helped my running the last couple of years has been training with her.
Yeah.
So I just think finding a balance and finding purpose. That's the main thing. You hear people say that, and that looks a lot differently year to year. And maybe, I'd still love to train. It'll always be part of my routine. It makes me feel good. I feel more productive when I get home afterwards. I just feel like I'm ahead of the curve with my day. But having business projects take off and do well is satisfying as well. And when you're working with other people and sort of on those sorts of things, I think the collaboration and the team element makes me feel nice, because it's something as an athlete you do have, but not quite to the same extent. And giving back a little too. Like, we were talking before about the different charities and things you can get in and working in and around and involved with. And overall, mate, I just feel super lucky that an old guy who did the sport a while ago still gets to be involved and turn up at a lot of events. And I mean, the sport's been so good to me. I can't tell you the life it's given me it's just been awesome. can't believe I raced as a pro athlete for over 2 decades, and now I'm still involved in different capacities, and some of that involvement has gone off into business interests and other things. I just feel, incredibly lucky because as I said to you, mate, I started as a 20 or 21-year-old uni student who'd had 6 months off sport for the first time ever, and I just was trying to be active and feel good about myself again.
Yeah. Man, it seems like the biggest thing that I've taken away from not only this conversations, but coffee this morning, all the conversations we've had in the lead up is like you're like just living in alignment, and I feel like that's infectious. Like I feel like you're so proud and you've got so much good energy when you're talking about your kids and your family, and then that crosses over into your business about how much like passion and purpose you have with that, your training, just your lifestyle. And I feel like that is something that we should all like thrive for and something that we should take away from. And to be honest, mate, I think it's really infectious. Like the way I want to live my life now, and then also when I go into the future, very similar. Like I look at someone like yourself, which is something that I kind of want to emulate. So, mate, thank you. Like, thanks so much for all your help, and I'm really grateful for this conversation, mate.
Yeah, it's been fun. I appreciate the invite to come on, and I mean, like anything, I don't just want to paint it as it's all rainbows and sunshine and rose-colored glasses. It's challenging, but I think, I prioritize family. I'm just super grateful to my wife and all the people who've helped me. And, one of the best things about still being involved and going to the big races is it's like a school reunion. Yeah. I catch up with guys I used to race, girls. I mean, a lot of my best training partners were girls back in the day in Boulder, Colorado. I had some awesome training partners, Marinda Carfrey, Julie Dibbins. They live on the other side of the world now, so I only get to visit them or see them at the big races and big events. And I mean, I do feel lucky, but it's hard work, mate. It's not,
it's not linear, mate. It's up and down, isn't it?
100%. Yeah, you still got your challenges, but I'm very grateful that the sport has been the best teacher, the best friend, best companion I've had. So I'm just eternally grateful that I'm still involved, and appreciate you inviting me on to have a chat today.
Can I ask you a quick question, Craig?
Yep.
I just want to know what is your biggest piece of like adversity in life in general? Could be anything, and then go the opposite way. What's your favorite thing to do in life now, like post career?
Biggest thing in life adversity was my son having a stroke 3 years ago. My son suffered a stroke. He was a talented athlete. He was on a sporting scholarship. And he was actually running at the GP. He was representing his school at Homebush, and suffered a spinal stroke at level T2. So, hard. As an athlete, I never experienced anything like that because, again, it comes down to the mindset of being an athlete. However bad shit got, or my form's terrible, I've had a shit performance, my head was always, well, I can turn this around, or there's something I can do. Or, okay, let's just move. Like, I felt I had a certain level of control, whereas that I had no control. And I'd be turning up to the hospital every day wondering what fucking bad news we were going to get next. And you have no control over it. So that was the hardest. But you know what? The knowledge from sport did help me. His neurologist said to me, stroke rehab is like endurance training. It's about consistency and repetition. So that's something I know about. Yeah. So
because you mentioned this morning that you guys would do the rehab together.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So what was the other part? What do I get enjoyment out of in life?
Yeah, what's your favourite thing to do?
Just hanging out with the family. Just hanging out with the family. I was always so training. There was always somewhere to go. And then when you weren't training, at one point in my career, I had 22 sponsors, which is awesome.
That's fucking...
It's
hard for deliverables.
Yeah, hard for deliverables, mate. So that's 22 different marketing departments you're working with. And they were big, like Toyota, Jabra headphones, a bank in America, American Interbank. So big companies, a lot of deliverables, and my wife helped me with that, but I had a manager as well.
Yeah.
So there was always something. You were busy. Yeah. And your year was scoped out. Like a lot of those companies knew I had blackout periods where I was training. So then when I'd finish Hawaii and it's holiday time, mate, I'd be in Europe or America for the next 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So now I like coaching my kids' teams. I wish my son hadn't have had the stroke, but we've spent so much time together the last 3 years.
Did they like perspective shift as well? Like, you know, like fuck, things can change like in a
so quickly.
second,
Yeah.
eh?
And I'm just like, even before he had the stroke, I was grateful for my career. Felt lucky.
Yeah.
There are athletes as talented as me who just went by the by, and you think, where's so and so gone? They were killing it. And they're out of the sport, or so and so's out of the sport, and I always just felt. And you make your own luck for sure, but you need a little bit of luck, things to go your way at the right time as well. And but yeah, I mean, when he first had the stroke, I remember thinking, fuck, what does this mean for his sporting scholarship? And the neurologist from day one said, we don't think, it's a high likelihood he'll never walk again. So then I'm like, well, fuck sport. What's this mean for his life?
Yeah, fucking right.
And then like everything else that's going on that's affected, you think, fuck, relationship, what's this mean moving forward with just things that we don't even think about.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, and it was crazy because the Starlight Foundation, I don't know if I finished that story. So I was their ambassador for 2 years before he had the stroke. And then he had the stroke and we went up to the Starlight room for the first time, and I got an email from the lady who heads it up. It's like, what were you doing at the hospital? So we actually got the tour, but not the tour that you want to get.
Gotcha.
So I was an ambassador for the Starlight Children's Foundation, and they have a Starlight room at Sydney Children's Hospital in Randwick. And I was saying to Keegs, we were trying to line up just a tour so you could go through and see where the money raised, where's it go to. And it's fucking amazing. Like, they have this incredible room set up with PlayStations.
Yeah.
All the kids get to cook. They bake cookies. There's painting. There's a coffee machine for the parents. There's pinball machines.
Yeah.
And an hour a day or more, the kids try and get there.
Yeah.
And also the kids who are bedbound, who can't get there, which is a lot of kids, they have the Starlight captains who just go around ward to ward, which was my son in the beginning, handing out Lego, Nintendo Switches. Mate, it's friggin' awesome.
Yeah.
It's all the kids look forward to. It's the only thing they look forward to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah. So they do amazing work. But yeah, I'd been their ambassador for 2 years, and then we actually became recipients of of the foundation. So it does put things in perspective. But you know what? It puts things in perspective, I guess, this way, that you think, fuck, this is bad luck, and why did this happen to us? And there's so many more things important than sport. But you almost get in, like in the beginning, I remember just thinking, fuck, why has this happened to my son? I wish this had happened to me. Like, I've had a good life. Why? A 13-year-old shouldn't have to deal with these things and the conversations we're having. But then you're in the hospital, and most of the kids were sicker than my son, and son didn't even leave. So you're like, okay. And when you do leave, you feel a little guilty, actually. You're like, you know, as much as this sucks. And even now, he's still dealing with things. Like, he'll be dealing with stuff forever. He's got a lot of function back, but he fatigues quickly. He's got movement patterns that are indicative of a spinal cord injury. He's still having some bladder issues, and we're having the scoliosis thing tomorrow. Mate, I just remember we were in the neurology ward, and the oncology ward was next door, and all the kids used to do stuff together. And mate, you'd turn up, and there'd be families gone because the kid had passed away overnight. And yeah, it's just like, so it does put things in perspective. Like, as much as this is a bad thing that happened to us, at least we got out of there. At least we snuck out of there, and we still go in and do visits whenever Ozzy has his follow-up appointments, which is once every 6 months now. We go and visit. And mate, they've just extended the hospital at Randwick. It's double capacity because they couldn't house there wasn't enough hospital for all the sick kids. You're like, what's going on? So they've got New South Wales going, it's $1 billion, but a lot of the money came from personal donations as well.
I was going to say, how do they fund that?
There was some of the government, but a lot of it was personal donations for Randwick and Westmead.
Gotcha.
So they've just had to double the size of both hospitals. It's like, it's crazy. So we did. And I think Austin sees that, my son, because he spent 2.5 months in hospital. And, mate, we'd see that many sick kids in there. And I'd come in some days and he said to me one day, this kid in the room next door had passed away overnight. He's like, oh, did you hear about what happened next door? I'm like, yeah, I did. And he was seeing that. So we ended up getting out of there. We were lucky. We were lucky.
I wonder how that'll change his thoughts, like, as he grows, like, gets older into life, like.
It's amazing, you know. I don't think I was a selfish person, but I might have been at some points. Because as a mate, you played. It's all a self-reflection and me. How's my training going? How's my diet? What's my next race? What are my sponsors saying? Do I have to, you know? You almost don't see the forest for the trees because you're so caught up in your own fucking little bubble. So what's been refreshing is coaching my kids' soccer teams and work. I mean, I'm the beach running coach at the Lura Surf Club.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So all my kids did nippers. It's so refreshing going down there and worrying about other people and the parents coming up to me talking about how they think their kids are going and just not worrying about yourself all the time.
Yeah.
Because that's what you do as an athlete. All you fucking do is talk about yourself and worry about yourself and almost. And I think that's one of the big shifts, like you were talking about downstairs, when your mates finish, and when a sporting career ends, and when it ends quickly, fuck, I hope you've got something in place to slide into, so that maybe you have a couple of weeks of holiday, but then you wake up and you've got some purpose and some structure in your day, and not just floundering around.
Yeah, you're not lost.
Thinking about yourself. And you know, I read this thing once. I think it was John Eales, the ex-Wallaby captain. He said, "You got to love what you do, not what you did." So I think there's a lot of truth in that. And it's hard to do because if you've had a successful sporting career, how do you do anything as successfully again? Because you've spent 2 decades doing this. You haven't got time to start another business. Well, hopefully you do, but you're running out of time. Yeah. And now you're in a space where the people you're up against have been at it for 2.5 decades. So
it's kind of like what you were saying this morning when you were like, someone said, "Oh, how do you get past when like the biggest achievements you've already had going forward?" It was just like, no, you've still got so much more to do, right? Like, and find a purpose in other things.
Yeah. So I enjoy that. I enjoy waking up on the weekends and not having to train all day, every day.
Yeah.
But I still want to train for part of the day. And it's just nice now, I can go for a run or go to the gym and I've got the rest of the day to do whatever. So, but biggest adverse, I think when you have kids, nothing fucking prepares you for that. Yeah. And even now I'm just worried the whole fucking time because when we didn't know what caused it, I'm like, first of all, I couldn't sleep. Like, is this going to happen again? My wife's an emergency nurse, so she works in this space. She's like, you just got to get over it and move on. And we just, like the old rugby, the old league saying, play what's in front of you. It's what Neri used to say. We just got to take today on. But then he had a couple of, with a spinal injury, sometimes the messages just don't get through. So we had 2 situations. Good Friday last year, we went for a surf in the morning. So it's amazing. He can surf, which I would consider a high-level motor skill. Yeah. But then walking across the road, his legs just stopped working and he fell over and cut his knee open. We had to get 22 stitches in his leg. His body just stopped working. So that was April. And then in September last year, his leg stopped working at the top of the stairs at the Caringbah train station. He fell the whole way down, gave himself a concussion. Fuck. So then I started worrying about that all the time. Like, fuck, why are his legs not working? And we talked about this with the neurologist, and mate, even experts have no answers sometimes. They're like, fuck, we don't know. That should not happen.
Yeah.
Kind of like a buggy system.
Yeah, and there's a bug in the system. Yeah, and so you got to somehow default it. So that's the kind of things we try and do. And how is that? Is it using the system? Is it meditation? Is it mindfulness? Or is it... There's so much... Yeah, there's so much they don't know. But that's exactly how I described it. There's some sort of bug in the system. But the system's been able to right itself. Unfortunately, you had to fall down a flight of stairs for that to happen, though. So, yeah.
Scary stuff.
It is scary. But every parent goes through it.
Yeah, fuck.
Well, probably, maybe not to that level, but every parent's worried about what's going to happen.
That's what, that was the exact same thing when we're talking to Mark Matthews. I was just like, you've done fear, like you're overcome like so much fear. I was like, what scares you now? And he's just like, anything to do with my kids.
Yeah.
I was like, he's like, scares the fuck out of me. You just want what's best for him. Like,
yeah. Because I think like he's spent his life mitigating risk and knows how to do it.
Yeah.
So at least he's in a bad position. Yeah, he's got some level of control.
Yeah.
But yeah, kids are just out there in the wide world. But we were kids.
Yeah.
We were fucking kids.
I know.
And we we got through, but yeah, sometimes bad stuff happens.
Yeah.
I think that's the perspective. Like your mate's going through it now with his mate.
Yeah.
And when you're in the hospital, woe is me, fucking, I'm the only one with bad shit going on. And then you walk in the hospital and the joint is packed full of people with bad shit going on.
Yeah.
And that's one hospital.
Yeah.
And there's hospitals everywhere and you're like, okay, just fucking pull your head in a little.
Yeah, yeah, it's such a reality check, eh?
There's a constant theme that me and Keegan have like recognised from like the people that come on the body is like you were saying before, like positive reframing like the situation. And like everyone that's like quite successful, like yourself and all the others, they're really good at that.
Yeah.
Like being able to see it for what it is and then just letting it be what it is and then just going on about like their work. And
well, it's so important because not only not wanting it to happen, it needs to happen because that's where all the growth happens after that. Like all the losses or the bad shit is when you learn, you figure stuff. If everything's going swimmingly as an athlete, like my old swim coach used to say that he's like, you'd win a race or whatever and you go, did you have a good day? You're like, yeah, I had a fucking great day. Like everything went well. He goes, well, fucking impress me. Do it when you're not having a good day.
Yeah.
Like, and I'll be like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because all I really did was my job today, which is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
But you only figure out how to do it when you do have the bad shit.
100%.
So, yeah, I don't know.
And even talking to like the most like people whoever you look up to, it's just like most of their lives haven't been fucking easy.
No.
All the most impressive people have gone through the fucking shit.
It's been hard shit.
Yeah.
I feel like your son will be like
Yeah.
so good at like dealing with adversity.
Mate.
Now that he's had to like go through some
Mate, he will be. He will be. I get caught in the little details. He's just picked up snow. We've just got him classified for parasport, actually.
Mate.
So, and it's amazing, you know, because he was a gun surfer and he can surf.
Yeah.
But you watch him walk and you think, fuck, he's having trouble walking.
Yeah.
So some things that are considered low level, muscle memory is a crazy thing.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Yeah, and he doesn't surf the way he used to, but he can pop up. And
Yeah.
so we took him snowboarding 2 weeks ago. He'd never done it. And yeah, he loves it. But now this scoliosis thing, I'm just worried about, because if there's surgery and like a 6-month rehab, it's like, fuck.
Mate, he should link with Benny Tudhope. You know Benny? He was Paralympian of the Year 2 years ago. He's a Toyota ambassador. He has cerebral palsy and gnarly. He had, I'm pretty sure, gnarly scoliosis growing up.
Right.
He's pretty high functioning. Like I think his speech is a little bit impaired, but he's such a dude. Like, but he's downhill. He's downhill snowboarding,
That's good.
He's fucking awesome to chat to. Like, he's such a cool dude.
Mate, the para athletes I've met are far more impressive than any able-bodied athlete because they're doing that shit with bodies that don't work the way they're supposed to do it. It's like, how the fuck are you doing this?
Yeah.
I saw something like yesterday running that marathon with like coming through about
one leg,
10 minutes behind like Kipchoge and all that with like no legs, like
just
the
prosthetics.
Wow,
and,
mate.
Like below the knee.
I know.
Like his knee was gone.
Yeah. Crazy, man.
But you're right though, those people are so tough because they've dealt through that shit and got through it.
Yeah.
Like the day-to-day shit that we whinge about, that's not even on their radar. They're like,
man.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, Oz he's pretty resilient. It's pretty resilient, but he's all just like, yeah. I mean, he loved playing soccer. He loved AFL. But you know what? He's playing music now. He plays the keyboards and guitars. That's something that's happened.
Yeah.
And he's in the school band and... So that mate, he is resilient. He's tougher than me. I don't know. Neri always says to me, stop putting your shit and your issues on his plate. Like, so but kids are resilient. Yeah. They're tough.
Yeah. All right. Let's get a photo. Let's get a pic and get out of here. Thank you for listening to this episode of Keegan and Company, where it was all about the company that we keep, and it was an incredible conversation. This episode was powered by Famous Nutrition. You can shop online today and use Try30 at famousnutrition.com for 30% off and feel famously good today. See you next time.